Hello everyone and welcome to another episode. And for the first time in a long time, this is actually going to feature some actual game work and not just art. I know in the last episode I said that I was going to basically work on art for this video and try to flesh out the buildings, but to be honest, after the first week of working on the buildings and the new path that I'll show you in a second, I got kind of bored of art. Not art in general, of course, but just working sprint after sprint, week after week on this scene and the artwork. I wanted to shake things up and I was itching to get back into the code. So I did that, and I will show you that at the second half of this video. But first, let's take a look at what I did the first week. So if you remember correctly, I didn't like the paths I was using. It was for a darker, more complex art form that I was going for. And so I now have this path, which actually looks very similar, I will admit. It's not a huge change, but I was struggling. Like I said, I spent a lot of the first week working on this path, and I was struggling to find a path that worked. In everything I was doing, I was trying to do this style of just one color with just maybe a few stones or something in it, and it just wasn't working. And I went back and noticed that I do like the general look and texture of this path. It was too complicated, and the colors were completely off. It looked like it was tiling. So basically what I did is I removed a lot of the detail on the center tiles and then completely changed the colors of everything to be a lighter tan color instead of that dark, dingy orange color. And so we have this path, and I think it works pretty well. Another problem was that it was a bit tileable, so in a bad way. So basically it looked like it was just a bunch of tiles, as it actually is. And it still does look like that in a big area like this. It looks a little bit like that on the paths, but it's more significant here. But I think that's fine. Because this is a path, it really shouldn't be big like this very often. And whenever it is, like in this case, it's going to be sort of a marketplace, or it's going to be big to hold a bunch of stuff. So there's going to be stalls and people and maybe a fountain in the center here. So by the final product, it shouldn't look like just a big blank tiled space. So I don't think that's a problem. Like I said, I spent most of the first week failing at making this path until I finally happened upon this, and I think we're going to call the path quits at this point. There's definitely more I could do with this. I could work on the edges, making it blend a lot better with the areas it's in, similar to what I did with here. But I think that's more work than it's worth at this point. We've put too much time into this one little detail, or fairly big detail, and I think we're going to call it. The other thing I worked on was these buildings. So there's not a lot different here except the obvious. This section is new. The reason this section is new is because despite my expectations of thinking this building was going to be too big for the area, it was actually too small. I wanted to fill up some of this space over here and really give some space on the inside for me to be able to play around with the idea of it being an inn and not just a tavern. So I've added this over here, and I think it actually looks good. The ceiling was not easy, as roofing is always very difficult for me when it comes to pixel art, but I think it turned out well enough, and it sort of gives that idea of sloping downwards like here and then curving off to the side. So I think it works pretty well. As far as the church, I don't think I've changed anything about this, and I will mention that this is just an image, like there's no going in these buildings right now. But basically what I did is I extended the area around here. The church wasn't fitting here, but I really did want it here on the edge of town, and I didn't want to shrink it down at all. So I just expanded the town. I think I'm going to be doing a lot of that, moving the area around to fit the art or the houses that I already have, instead of just completely modifying the house like I did in this situation right here. Now, I know I said I was going to work on a lot of houses, and I honestly had really good intentions, as I always do about this, how much I can bite off for one sprint. I thought I was going to build a lot more houses for this place, but it just hasn't happened this sprint. However, I do have a plan of what I'm going to do in the future. I'm going to pull up this map right here, and this is just a still image. As you can see, it's a little grainy, of my plan for the city and the scene in general. So have you seen, we've already put in the tavern and the church with these general sizes to map out, and then we've got a few more things to do. So this estate over here, that's going to be a pretty large artwork that I have not worked on just yet. But I think it's going to be a different style, so this one may take me a little while, but sort of this is farmhouse estate off to the side. And then just houses and shops basically making up the rest of the village, with the ruined house way up at the top over here, which I can basically just copy and paste right up there. So this is the work I'm going to be putting into in the next sprint, hopefully, or the next few sprints, to really populate the town. I think the estate is going to be, like I said, in a different style, but all of the other houses can hopefully be copy-paste for the most part, with what I've already done, just bits and bobs, to make them a little bit more unique, such as the shops having whatever they're selling out front. So that's my plan going forward with the artwork for this scene right here. But now let's hop over to what I actually created during the second week of the sprint. For that, we're going to have to go to the old dark complex scene. And we're going to hit play on here, just because I haven't implemented any of the character functionality here. So we're back in the old world, and you'll see that there are now 2 of these generic NPCs that I have. So this old one was the one we were previously talking to. Oh, it still works. Good. We can leave and stop talking to that person. But here's the new person. And this is going to exemplify the new nodes I have added to the graph system. So if I talk to this person, they'll say, if you give me 2 apples, I'll give you a prize. So as you can see here, we are now having a quest system. She wants 2 apples, and she will give me something in exchange. And so if I go into my inventory, you'll notice all I have is 1 apple right here. So I don't have an option to give her 2 apples. I can say, sorry, I don't have any, or I can't spare 2. That's all right, no worries. Or if I said, sorry, I don't have any, she says, come back when you have enough. So I'd have to look around the world to find that. It's super simple right here. I open this chest right here, and I can drag these apples into my inventory, or stack them if I want. And now I have more than 2 apples, or at least 2 apples, and I can come back to the NPC and talk to her, and as you can see, another option has appeared. Here you go, give 2 apples. And if I do that, she says, thank you, here's a great book to read. Say thanks, no thank you, and now if I open up my inventory, you'll see this book has appeared. Now, in this case, I still have 2 apples to give her, so I can do the quest again, give her the 2 apples, and she'll give me another book. Now I have 2 books. So this is super basic right here, but one, it's kind of significant because it's actually my first game mechanic that I've had in this experience right now. Yeah, I have the ability of walking into buildings. Yeah, I can talk to characters. Yeah, I can maneuver or go upstairs. But this is the first time that the player has actually been given something to do. I think this is probably as far as I'm going to go with quests this year. It took an embarrassingly long time to add that into the game, and I'll explain that in a second. But at least this will give my playtesters something to motivate them to explore the world. So I think this is super important. I can put a few characters around and ask them to basically go on a scavenger hunt. It's not going to be particularly fun for the playtesters, but it will give them an opportunity to explore the map, an incentive to check around the whole place, and experience the little game mechanics that exist, such as going inside or going upstairs, or things like that. Now, the reason it took a long time, and I'll be honest, the main reason it took a long time is because my code for item handling is really bad. I've gone back and I've worked on it before and tried to fix it up before, but it's still really bad, and I need to revisit it. Honestly, I took the entire second week just implementing this code, and that's pretty pitiful. So what's really cool about that quest system that I've created is that it's all built into these nodes that we've seen before, this dialogue node graph system. So what we've added is this request node and a provide node. So the request node allows an NPC to ask for items from the player. And so you can see right here, the item they're going to ask for is a fruit, and the number of items is 2, and the give response, the response that will pop up if the player has 2 fruit, will be this right here. Everything else is just like the previous statement nodes that you've seen before. And then all I do is I connect this up to a provide node so that If the player is able to give those 2 items, then we have a response and we give the player 1 book in this case. I think this is going to make creating quests and basically the scavenger hunt game mechanic for the end of the year, I think this is going to make it a lot easier to implement into the game, basically over and over again. I can just use these request and provide nodes throughout the conversations. I don't have to hard code anything. It's modular and it should work right out of the box. Now comes the art, I think. I know I've been working on art a lot, and I think I need to get back to it. Honestly, this little bit of code work, trying to make those nodes, forcing them to work with the rest of the system, took it out of me, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to run back to the art world and just work on that. So I think hopefully in the next sprint, if I keep that motivation going, I'm going to keep working on the houses, maybe get the estate up and running, and then maybe even start adding a few more NPCs. And that may lead me into pixel gen shenanigans that only time will tell what those will be. Anyway, that's it for this sprint. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please leave it a like. That'd be appreciated. And I will see you in the next one.